we should all appreciate this moment when essentially everyone left of center is kind of like has breathed a sigh of relief. And we're in like a kumbaya moment. We've put our differences aside for the week, it seems, and everyone is just kind of happy. And this is the most energy I've seen from anything remotely left of center in a long time.
This is the most united I've ever seen the Democratic Party. It is the most energized I've ever seen the Democratic Party. Hell, it is the most competent I have ever seen the Democratic Party. In fact, I said on this show not too long ago that, hey, totally just speculating here, but I would have never been so gung-ho for Kamala Harris if this exact sequence of events didn't happen. And I speculated that if the DNC party leadership was capable of some Machiavellian 3D chess, this would have been an excellent way to unite the party around a candidate that would have otherwise been divisive. I still don't think they're that confident, TJ. No. But I will say it might have all just worked out, and it did take still a lot of things that could have went wrong to go right. But we're sitting here, all of the people who were like, oh, well, Kamala, no, she won't be able to get the fundraising, all Biden's infrastructure. What are we going to do? No, you guys are always either just lying or not caring about being correct, because they just had the biggest day of the biggest couple of days of fundraising. Grassroots, by the way, not all big donors, like grassroots. Ever? Was it ever?
It's the biggest fundraising. Yeah. 1 day fundraising in history. Yeah. It was the biggest in history. So yeah, it is funny.
That to Biden's war chest that she gets to inherit.
Yeah. It's massive. Yeah. So it's funny because we've all been thinking the same thing about the weird, like Rube Goldberg machine series of events that just happened for this surprisingly pleasant result. And I don't believe that this is because a lot of people are saying that, I know what happened. Like we talked about it before, that their grand plan was to expose Biden in the summer, have everyone shit their pants and replace him. That is as risky a move as you could possibly make. That's just, you'd be better off just not having Biden debate. It'd be a lot safer. And the competent part. So no points for competence in how they handled Biden. That was terrible. But the aftermath, like military precision. And look, respect to Nancy Pelosi. We should on
rarely
Nancy Pelosi.
Do we say this, TJ. Rarely is Nancy Pelosi our white knight, but
yeah, my God. Say what?
Credit where credit's due.
Exactly. Nancy Pelosi rose to the occasion as a general. I mean, look, I'm rarely one who gushes about Nancy Pelosi, but one thing that I have always said is she was an excellent Speaker of the House for the party because she was great at fundraising. That's why she got the job. But she was never surprised by votes. She never brought votes to the floor unless she knew they were going to pass. She knows what the fuck she's doing. And older than Biden, I might add. She's 2 years older than Joe Biden. And she still got everything together. And she got a hold of Joe Biden's chief of staff, who was only giving Biden's positive polls. He wasn't showing Biden the polls that showed he was dangerously close in states like New Mexico and New Jersey, states that they should have locked up. And Nancy Pelosi said, no, I need to see the data on this. I need to see everything you have. She forced them to hand it over. And then she said, okay, look, you guys got a couple weeks here or I'm going public with this. So make your decision now or I'm going to make it for you. I was like, God damn, Nancy, I know you had it in you like that, but yeah, hats off.
It is really funny to see we'll call them Biden stands, Blue MAGA, all the people who were in my mentions and your mentions being like, oh, how evil you are for trying to betray Joe Biden like I was ever a fan of Joe Biden. All of these people are getting a taste of the medicine that we leftists have been just drowning in.
That's funny.
Forever. Because I recognize their complaints. I recognize how they feel. It's how I feel all the time when Nancy Pelosi just crushes every progressive pro-worker movement. But now it's the shoes on the other foot. And you know what? It feels nice to be in these shoes, DJ. It feels nice. It feels nice to be part. And I said this. I said it today. I was just like, we are so used to losing everything, as progressive was ever going to call us. And this was the most quick, decisive, successful political movement I have ever been a part of. And it's like a drug. I feel so energized for Kamala now. I'm signing up to like a canvas and phone bank for her. Like that's how much this has turned around for me. I don't know about you, but I would have never done that for Joe.
That's the thing, that the it's not a surprising amount of energy. It's like, you know what? It's not. I was thinking about this all night, this entire thing about how just incredibly energetic everything seems right now. It's in the air, you know, and people were genuinely on the edge of their seat with this Biden thing by summer. And they're like, man, like this guy, I'm sure he can hold on. But then the debate happened and things just started falling apart quickly. And what was frustrating is that you had the people you were talking about saying, no, look, we're riding with Biden. You can't let the guy go. We can't risk this. And I understood the risk part. But the argument that we always made was, look, sure, you can look at polls technically saying he's tied or technically saying he's 2 or 3 behind, but these polls are not going to get better. And then we would tell them, what would they argue? That, you know, the polls, like, we have to just ignore them and stuff. And they're delusional. The delusion just wouldn't stop. And they would accuse you of funny what the Republicans are saying now. Like, how many people in the Democrats did you hear say, we had a primary, we chose our candidate, are you against the will of the people? It's like, have you seen the polls on this? Like 70% of Democrats want Joe Biden to step down. That seems like a better, like, you know, people change their mind when they get access to new information. Kind of weird thing people do.
Yeah.
Like, that's
Republicans don't, so I understand why they're confused.
Yeah. Yeah. And so now to see that the Republicans are saying the exact same thing really lets you know who was right the entire time. That now that the Republicans are hilariously saying, well, this isn't fair. You guys had a primary. This is a subversion of democracy. It's like, come on, guys. Like, I appreciate you feeling bad for us, but if you can't tell, we seem to be pretty happy with this decision.
Isn't it weird how the people we call blue MAGA are making the same exact argument that normal MAGA people are making? It's weird, isn't it? And I will say, at least of the blue MAGA people, some of them genuinely did have a claim to feel that way, that their voice was being overridden. And there are, we will relitigate this, TJ. When we're in December and we're celebrating a decisive victory, we will be relitigating how much the Democratic Party fucked this up and fucked the voters over, because the argument that they were undemocratic is correct. It's just Republicans are saying the wrong thing was undemocratic. It was not undemocratic for Joe Biden to step down. I mean, everyone who voted for his ticket in the primaries, Kamala was the replacement if Joe Biden became too ill or died or whatever, and he's 80-something. Like, everyone knew this was a possibility. No one who submitted a vote for Joe Biden in the primaries didn't think, oh, well, it's possible that Kamala might take over here. That was clear and obvious. What was undemocratic was Joe Biden deciding to run in the first place, the DNC immediately coalescing and circling the wagons around him and not allowing for any debates or any sort of open primary. That was the undemocratic part. But the decision to step down was very democratic. It is what the party and the country in general wanted.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do like that you put this, that, you know, we're going to relitigate this December, because I need the Democrats to understand something. This is a temporary alliance. Okay. This is an alliance of necessity. And, you know, presuming that, in fact, either way, whether Trump or Harris wins, alliance is over. We're right back to where we were, you know, last year. And I know a lot of leftists like might be disappointed in us, like on either side, you know, on this. And like I don't know if you still know people who was like, they're still absolutely not voting for Biden or Harris. They can't do it. Okay, I get that. We'll be with you guys soon enough. But I don't know. To me, I just don't see. I don't see how a 9-0 conservative Supreme Court helps our cause or anything. I just don't. There's no world in which more GOP governance and all 3 branches of government make our lives easier and our socialist utopia one step closer. Which is, you know, it's all out of practicality. That's just what we want to do here. I don't know about you, John. What do you think?
Yeah, I was actually thinking about this quite recently, and I realized the flaw in the logic, because I get like for the never voting for Democratic candidates people, I get what you're saying. I get it. But the only option, if you are not going to vote your way into power and you are not going to change the world for a better electorally, if you're anti-electoral politics, the only option is bloody revolution. And that's A, not going to happen, and B, also not very effective. Nonviolent revolutions have historically been twice as effective as violent revolutions. Sometimes violence is necessary, but you're just not going to be able to get the urge to do that in the richest country on earth. No matter how bad things are for a lot of people aren't going to pick up a gun and go fight the US government. So if you're not going to do that and you're not going to vote, you're just it's the ContraPoints famous quote that she had, where she was like, these people don't want to win, they don't want power, they want to endlessly critique power. And it's honestly very true. If you're not going to do the electoral politics thing and you're not going to do the violence thing, what are you really doing here? You're just complaining online. And okay, like, go ahead. Like, and if you convince yourself that bloody revolution is the only way forward, that justifies a hell of a lot of awful things, which is why you tend to see the kind of people who actually take that route tend to do a lot of awful things, because once that's the case, everything is on the table. And I just don't want to go down that road, TJ. I think we have better options still before us. We can avoid the fascist dictatorship that would necessitate that, and we should do that up until we can't.
Yeah, it's like the that quote. It says, you talk to a lot of people online and ask them, like, and they say that their politics are firebombing Walmarts, but they don't firebomb any Walmarts. Like, okay, then it doesn't really matter at all at that point. So yeah, it's weird. And about this too, what's gotten me is, I'll go ahead and share this right here. What's gotten me is that we were bragging how last week we called this, that Biden and them were holding off on the announcements until after the RNC, and which makes this even more surprising at how flat-footed they seem to be caught by this. That's actually, it's not just that, the people who were worried that, I remember I was out a couple Sundays ago with some people, and they were talking about how they were afraid if Harris was the nominee that she was a black woman and that they thought she might, not get her support. And my argument was, look, if a black guy whose name was Barack Hussein Obama could win, I think a black woman can win. I didn't see that was a much big harder sell than Kamala Harris. And which it turns out, like, when she got the nomination, we were a little, she's killed it. She has. Like, I critiqued Harris a lot the first 2 years while she was vice president and when she was running, because of her stunning lack of charisma whenever she was speaking. But I said, I think earlier this year, she's gotten a lot better. Like her stumps presentations, her interviews, she's a lot more clear. And this isn't just like, oh my God, she's the nominee. No, I've been saying this for a little bit. But what I wanted to bring up was right here. So Donald Trump, once he got wind of this whole thing, we saw this. So we are forced to spend time and money on fighting crooked Joe Biden. He pulls badly after having a terrible debate and quits the race. Now we have to start all over again. Shouldn't the Republican Party be reimbursed for fraud in that everybody around Joe, including his doctors and the fake news media, knew he was not capable of running for or being president? Just asking. And it's stuff like that that's weak as fuck. It's just like, it is just like exuding this insecurity. And all the Republicans are sounding like this. I haven't heard any good comebacks for this. Like, honestly, at least somewhat predictable outcome. Like, it's like it was at least a 30% chance that this was going to happen, and they weren't ready for it at all, it seems.
Well, yeah, TJ, this is what I've been saying for over a year now, that any competent Democrat should be able to take this campaign to the woodshed, because these are the same people, and I say this over and over again, that booked a vital press conference at Four Seasons Landscaping. I can't stress enough how dumb the other side of this is. It's not that hard to beat them. And in fact, the fact that we've been fighting these people for, what's it been? It's been 8 years now?
8 years, yeah.
Is really a more of a critique on us than it is on them, because they're terrible. It's the worst campaign ever, because you're right, This not only should have been easily foreseeable 2 months ago, it should have been easily foreseeable a year ago.
Yeah.
Like, they've known Donald Trump is the candidate for a long time now, and they've been saying he's too old. Like, they've been making this critique. They should have been prepared. But really, I would be more surprised if they were prepared, TJ. It's the complaining, you nailed it. It's so weak. It's so just, oh, we should be reimbursed by these guys changing the rules. Where? You knew this kid on the playground, guys. You knew you were forced to play with this kid because their mom got upset at your mom for excluding him. You know exactly what I'm talking about. I don't care how Republican you are. Don't lie to my face and tell me that this reaction is not the weakest shit you've ever heard.
Yeah, it is. The Donald Trump asking to be reimbursed for the money. That's like, man, you're supposed to look strong as your leader here, and a lot of people have been. It's just like one thing about the Harris thing is that the rallying around Harris, and it does show just how fucking weak and unlikable Donald Trump is, which is something that was always what I was leaning on when I said that Biden still had a shot. And it was not because of Biden, it's because Trump has a hard ceiling. And I think we've seen it. And the reason I think we saw it is because the assassination attempt pretty much did nothing. Like, his polls didn't change, at all. Nor did they change after the RNC. So it seems like the people who have chosen they're going to vote for Trump, they've exhausted it. They've drained that pool. There's no more. The only thing that could affect it is how many people are going to be voting for his opposition, which is where Biden hurt him where Biden hurt himself because, he went out there and showed that he couldn't think, and that scared people away. But what's weird about this too is when we talk about Trump and Harris, Biden, people have never loved Joe Biden more. This is a weird ending to this entire thing because Biden had to be. A lot of people are saying that he's a national hero and shit like that. Look, all right, let's not go too far. He had to be dragged kicking and screaming from this. Let's not pretend that, if the noble thing would have been to do this last year, honestly, but to prevent this nightmare that we lucked into going pretty well. But the fact that people are just in love with Biden, let's say he would have won his election this time and made it through the next 4 years, he still wouldn't be as loved as much as he is now because of what he just did. And seeing this, so that's kind of weird to see.
It is, but it's exactly what we've been arguing, that he runs and inevitably fails. He's seen as one of the worst presidents of all time. If he bows out, he gets the George Washington legacy. And George Washington was a good president, he did a lot of good things, but he gets that, the noble sacrifice for the good of the people. He gets that epitaph. And honestly, his presidency now, again, assuming Kamala wins.
Assuming Harris wins, yeah.
But if she's a good president, it just sort of gives it back to him, and the history books might even, depending on how things go, the history books could basically almost forget Gaza.
They will. Gaza. Never know.
Well, it depends how everything cleans up, and it'll still be noted. But before, it was like, oh, this is going to be number one thing that people talk about.
Oh,
and now it's like, it'll be noted, but it's not going to be a big deal if everything kind of goes the way I do see it going.
Yeah, well, what I was saying about being so what happened now is in reality is Biden gets cocky. He overestimated his abilities. His team hid his cognitive decline from us, charged in, was embarrassed in front of millions of people, and had to shamefully withdraw from the race. But if Harris wins, what history is going to remember is that Biden withdrew from the race to give Harris the shot because he was old. The failure will slowly fade away. They will remember the heroism. And it's just odd that, Biden's legacy may go out that way. But back to the Republicans.